Hello and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show. I'm your guest host, CammieBaker.com, and we have a very special guest today, a gentleman that I met through LinkedIn and haven't actually had a conversation with, but his profile was fascinating, and it just goes to show that you really want to spend some time to position yourself properly on social media, because that's why he's on the TV show today. So, Krishna, please introduce yourself to our guests.
Hi, my name is Krishna. I actually am originally from India. I came to US back in 2005. I actually came here with that American dream in my mind. I went to school. I did my MBA, and then I got back to corporate world. I worked for several companies in the space of IT, the data center, energy, in the space of business development, sales, marketing. And I gained a lot of experience through that process. And then I started my own ventures. I started one of my first venture in 2010, started an IT company with a partner. We did fairly well, and then I sold that company to my partner. And then, long story short, in 2016, I started two more companies. One is into real estate, which is called Capital Street Investments, LLP.com. And I started Genius Visionary Inc., which is a business consulting firm with an objective to help small business owners on various aspects, like structuring them properly and then helping them on growth, increasing the valuation of companies, and also helping them in getting access to funding and building business credit, and eventually, helping them on exit strategies.
Well,
So,
it was that name that caught my attention, the Genius Visionary Network. So, talk a little bit about how you came up with that name, and give us some examples of some business people that you've worked with.
Yeah. So the Genius Visionary is basically it's not just doing a transaction with a client, because I have this big vision that I want to help at least 1 million small business owners, because we know, approximately 30 million small business owners are out there in US, and then we also know that more than 50% are likely to fail in the next 5 years. So the vision comes from there as to what is the solution. How can I actually contribute to the system and help using my knowledge, my background, my education. And that's the visionary part. But the genius is that I'm looking for several names, and something caught up with that. I'm just caught up with that, and I felt, okay, it sounds a little cool, adding genius to visionary, and then just trying to live up to that promise that what I want to really do, I think, is trying to align with the name, and then everything that I'm trying to do is trying to fit into that framework.
Well, to your point, there's 30 million small businesses in the United States alone. So that's a pretty big nut to crack. So when you are thinking about niching down to your ideal clients, like for me, I can help any business person with any purpose that they're passionate about to partner that together. But what I find is I am really best with real estate, with finance, and with insurance, which actually opens up to hundreds of subsidiaries of that. But at least I'm niching down to be able to talk directly to those folks. So who is it for you that you want to really speak to?
Yeah, my ideal target segment is between a company which is at least doing 250,000 on the lower side, and on the higher side, $3 million. So I'm addressing that space, because if you are under 250 million, you're still trying to figure it out. You're like, you're almost having a job. You're just trying to do everything by yourself. You do not really have a system in place. You do not have processes in place. You probably don't even have an employee in place. At the same time, you're kind of struggling there. And the upper limit 3 million cap that I came in, because at that time, you already have, your house in order. You have some systems, you have processes, you have people, you have some dependable customers, you have a market, you have some channels, you have some products and services that are proven. So that's the space which I really want to address. That's why I picked that space, and I'm not specific to a specific industry or a domain, because personally, interestingly, I have personally worked in more than 10 different industries over the past 20 plus years. So that helped me a lot to really have that perspective about the challenges that these guys go through. At the same time, also, really, I bring in some new thinking into the marketplace.
I find it really interesting and helpful to hear an actual case study. So, can you share with us about a company without names or with names,
Sure.
where they were and what you guys did and where they're at now?
Yeah, so I picked up, most recently, I helped a company which is into business analytics, which is an IT company. So they are actually having a big idea about building a platform that would help, you know, most companies to use data intelligently, to actually use in their marketing, use the data in actually taking decisions based on the data, whether it is financial decisions or marketing decisions or sales decisions. So they were actually struggling in terms of how do they structure the company, number one. Number two is in terms of how do I take this idea and then package it in a way that the market is going to accept. So I picked the company and gone through my strategy sessions, and then came up with the proper entity structure. And then once they're set up, then we gave recommendations in terms of how they would need to package the product in a way that it is appropriately priced, identifying their niche, identifying the customer pain points, in other words, and then make sure that the product really addresses that, and at the same time help them to really launch it in East Coast to start with. And then we tested initially with like 4 customers, and then once we saw the acceptance with them, and then we basically allowed them to expand to almost the entire US. So right now they're in a phase where they're really headed up for the next 2 years to at least reach the $2 million mark. So they just started this year. Right now they're about 300,000 kind of revenue, but they are going to hit that number, which is beyond, I would say, their expectation. Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. So many people don't know who their ideal client is. And so coaches like yourself and myself that help people to figure that out. It's amazing. People can be in business and doing up to $3 million a year and not really know who their ideal client is. They throw enough stuff on the wall and some of it sticks, and they just take what they can get. So is there a process that you go through to help people figure out who their ideal client is?
So the process that I would basically follow is that, first of all, to understand exactly what the product does, what is your service, what it actually does to the customer, what problem are you addressing, and then once we identify the problem, then we try to identify the demographic that you're actually trying to address. Who are these customers? What is their profile? What age group they are? What are their income levels? Where do they live? So we try to do we get into that level of details. What are their income levels? What are their, including behavior habits? What are their buying habits? Do they go online? Do they go and buy in traditional touch and feel kind of an environment? And then how comfortable are they on technology? So understand. I mean, I have a whole list of like 50 questionnaire that I would actually enforce these business owners to answer these questions. Many of the questions they don't have answers, but they are actually forced to go look for the data and plug into that. Once you plug in, then you have a realistic perspective about what is the market size, what is my space, and where do I actually operate, and what is it that I'm actually targeting, and then work backwards from there. So then you know exactly what's your starting point, what's your finish line, and then if I have to reach from here to there, what are the steps that I need to do along the way.
Well, yeah, and just the act of asking those questions sometimes is just enough for them to really think, wow, I've never really thought about that. Where do my clients hang out? Where do they spend money? What do they like? And sometimes even, give your client a name. Is it a man or a woman? What's her name? Who is she like? So for you, how do you go about attracting your clients? How do your clients usually find you?
Oh, me, in my case, I've been a little more, savvy on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has really helped me a lot, like just the way we met each other. I've been using LinkedIn for the past 10 plus years. I did some big things in terms of some global partnerships in my previous experiences. I was able to reach out to people at any level in terms of, because I bring in a lot of value in terms of my sales approach. So I give value first before I ask anything. So I think the sales in general and the marketing in general has significantly changed over the last 20 years, especially last, I would say, 7, 8 years. I think the game has completely changed. I got into sales in 1997. I started my career with GE. And I was trained like 1 year with the cutting edge sales methodologies back in the day. And then we have the old school training. I did all of that stuff, but I saw all of these changes. I was fortunate enough to educate myself, upgrade myself, my skills. I have 3 master's degrees. I did master's in marketing. I did MBA in international business. Most recently, I did MS in finance. So what I saw during this process is that the technology has taken over the people in many, many ways. So if you are not intelligent enough to understand the technology and use it with old school trainings, then you cannot sustain in the market. So most people don't know. These are like blind spots. You don't even know what you don't know as a business owner. You do everything.
1,000%. And LinkedIn alone in the last year has changed. Just in the last couple of months, for me, I was on a panel in Boston called LinkedIn Local. There's a whole movement of LinkedIn locals where people are coming offline from LinkedIn and coming together and physically getting together. And just last week, I was at a LinkedIn Global in New Jersey. And it's like, it feels like almost overnight, LinkedIn has turned into really Facebook for business. I mean, we've heard that said before, but it seems so much more social and much more engaged and interactive now than it was even 6 months ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So LinkedIn has been like that, I would say, last 3-4 years, but it has not come to the mainstream or the main street in a way, because LinkedIn was used by high-end, C-level executives, I would say, last 3-4 years. And then people have a preference in terms of the way they want to be contacted. And most people don't realize that. They don't want to be bothered by a phone call or an email, but if you do a LinkedIn messaging, then what happens is you are giving them time. They can do research on you, and then they know, a little bit about you, and then they can also decide to decline or accept your invitation or your message. So that gives a lot of buffer. And then if you do things in a right way, and if you are genuine, and if you have a real product with a real service, and then if you can live up to what you have to offer, then LinkedIn is the place.
Well, absolutely. And to your point, when someone says to me, hey, you need to talk to Mark, he'd be a great client for you, or, I'll have Mark call you, or you call Mark, tell him I sent you. I always ask, listen, if it's at all possible, if you could make a warm introduction through Facebook or LinkedIn or email, but especially LinkedIn or Facebook, because then when the introductions are made, you can look at their profile at least. Yeah. You at least get past the what do you do question. There might be more explanation needed, but at least you can see who they are.
And then you also have a lot of social proof that you can check. Okay, what is it that Krishna is doing, and who else Krishna knew, and who else are in common between us, and then what kind of credibility that Krishna connections they have. and what kind of companies he has worked with, what did he do in the past. You can verify all of those things. You don't even need to talk to me. And then if you see a red flag, you already have the answer. But in real world, in traditional world, you meet the same Mark. You don't know about Mark. You meet him, but you still have to go through all of these processes, and you still have that skepticism. Do you really have to work with him? How many times I need to meet Mark? Who else Mark can refer me to work with Mark? You don't have to do that. In fact, when I was in the corporate world, I was able to attract my last three jobs, which were about the duration of 7 to 8 years. All of them were through LinkedIn. No resume, no background check, no reference check, no nothing. It's purely attraction. I have not even applied for it, and it's all real.
So, I'm sorry, can you give our people an idea of, for you as a professional salesperson, professional business developer using LinkedIn for all these years, what are a couple of like pragmatic tips if someone wants to get in touch with another person? What is the process you would go through to reach out to that person?
I think we need to start with the step number one, which is having a complete profile. So that's the step number one. My last 3-4 years I've been doing this. I don't want that. I want to know everything about you. I right from your school. Even if you did not do anything sometime like 4 or 5 years ago, you have to you have to mention it right there. Oh, I took off. I was taking time off. I was traveling around the world for 3 years. It's okay. But having a complete profile shows that you're authentic and you're genuine. You got to be truthful about everything, and having a complete profile is the step number one. Number two, you want to reach that 500 connections mark. If you do not have 500 connections, then you already have a lot of disadvantages by the platform itself. LinkedIn is not going to show some exceptional profiles. LinkedIn restricts the profiles that you actually can see. People don't know this. What anybody sees on LinkedIn is not the same thing like I see. So LinkedIn has monetized all of these things, and it has its own algorithms and artificial intelligence into that. So for a common man, anybody who is starting up, I would say first thing is complete profile. Second thing is reach that 500 mark. Because after 500, even if you have 10,000 connections, it shows 500. It looks like you are well connected, at least to start with. You become attractive. You want to attract people.
I'm so glad that you bring that up, to have your completed profile. I was just speaking with a client today who is she's actually the president of the Commercial Board of Realtors in Massachusetts. And as I've been helping her to get in front of more of her ideal clients, I said, now we need to really work on your profile, because now that you're meeting all these people, they are going to stalk you, they are going to Google you, they are going to creep on you. So we need to have stuff there for them to look at. Yeah.
Yes.
So can you speak on, maybe a little bit about this, where you can't see necessarily how many connections they have, but you can see how many followers there are?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Whether they're connections or the followers, you want to have good quality people in your network. We got to be careful when I say good quality. You got to be very strategic about your intention. Am I going to target, C-level executives? Am I going to target coaches? Am I going to target authors? Am I going to target small business owners? And then strategically build the network around that area. So it's like whatever you have, you'll get more of that in your life. In other words, if I'm connected to 10,000 business owners, most likely I will get invitations from other business owners, because that's what I am. So you want to get to a point where people are sending invitations to you, not you are sending to people.
So it's great that you mentioned all of that, because the question was, how do you reach out to someone? But to your point, there's a lot of prep work. There's a lot of setting the foundation, because you can't decorate the bathroom until you have a house. You can't have a house, so you have a foundation. So I love that.
Yeah, I want to have my Maserati, but first thing I need to have is not Maserati. I need to have my garage in first. That's the psychology you need to have. Do you have the garage if I give the Maserati? That's my question. You don't. Then why are you expecting Maserati? This is what it is with LinkedIn or anything. I mean, I think business owners, they need to be strategic about their intentions. Oh, I want to make money. I want to become. That's not going to help. You got to have a goal. You got to have an action plan, and then you got to walk the talk. Oh, I want to have 100 clients. So okay, can you handle those clients? Do you have the wherewithal? Do you have the team? Do you have sufficient infrastructure to handle the clients? Most business owners are not ready. They don't know that they cannot handle that clients. Just because everybody is growing doesn't mean that you need growth. You got to do certain things first, then you need to know how much growth you want and go for it, and then go for the next growth. You cannot swallow everything at the same time. So a lot of these things are the missing pieces that I see at every level. People need to focus more on thinking first and then doing later. They're more focused on doing, and they're busy, so they have no time to think. So and they're lost. By the time I realize, oh man, I've been in business for 3 years. This is not working out. This is not for me. I'll go for next business. No, you have not done enough homework. You have no clue about what's possible in your business.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. So, this is working for them, but may not be for me. No, it's not like this. You have not done. Have you done everything possible in your capacity to make it happen?
Well, and to your point, have you done everything in your capacity? I was just speaking with a new client again this morning, and she was telling me about all the different marketing things that she had delegated out when she shouldn't be delegating yet. These were things that she needed to take responsibility for. And I had mentioned to her, you're hiring people to do your social media and to do your SEO and all these things. You're paying people hoping that they will give you a fish. I'm going to help you learn how to fish, get your own fish. Once you get enough fish that you can sell fish to make a profit, then you can hire people and delegate.
Absolutely. And if you don't know how to fish, then you can't make others accountable while they're hunting the fish, because you don't know why they're not hunting the fish. You think they have the bait. They're doing everything possible. They're in the lake, but they're not. The only thing they're not doing is catching the fish. And you never know, because you have never done that. Even conceptually, you don't have an idea as to what it takes to get the fish.
Well, and not only that, a lot of the times they don't know what kind of fish they like. They're not even sure if they want fish. Maybe they want meat.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But you're in the wrong place. So I think it all goes back to clarity, and then stepping back, and then taking that baby steps. Step by step. Business is like anything else. You got to be methodical. You need to be very, very clear, and then have a plan, and then stick to the basics, and then be ready to do whatever it takes, not just whatever you can. You got to have that kind of commitment. There are so many odds against the business people. They don't realize. They have so many blind spots. They don't realize. They don't hang out with the right people who can give this kind of inputs or suggestions. You have to live, breathe, do everything like that ideal person that you want to be today when you are not.
Amen. I say all the time, every time I get interviewed, people ask me, what's that one pearl of wisdom? What's that one thing you can tell our listeners that would help them? And it's always the same. It was last night at an event I spoke at. It is change your playgrounds and your playmates. Whatever it is that you're wanting to do, find people who've done it and done it successfully and hang out with them. Whether it's hiring them as a mentoring coach, whether it's going to those groups. I was just sharing, I hired a personal relationship coach a few months ago because I didn't grow up with great personal relationships around me, so I don't know what they look like and I don't know how to have one. So I hired somebody to help me do that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so people need to look for people like yourself to hire. So, we've got all these people in the United States that were born here and raised here and then have, live in the land of the free, as it were. Like you said, you came here to be part of the American dream, but yet they don't take advantage of it as so many people like yourself who, come here and really see the benefit of being here. What are we've got about 2 minutes left. What are some books that you think would be a great inspiration, or classes to take, or mentors to have? What do you think?
I think Think and Grow Rich is a good good starting point, I would say. And then, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, What Rich Teach Their Kids About Money for Poor and Middle Class Do Not, and the Cash Flow Quadrant, which is a very important book. And then your Mingle to Millions book. Your book is a wonderful book. And then whatever I explained in a different language, but I'm completely resonating to the same concept. That's the most powerful concept that every business owner should understand. What you wrote in your book, that one message can change their game, but they need to understand thoroughly, and they need to be sold on the idea that, it's like this. If you tell me your top 5 friends, I can tell you, your future. It's that simple. And then, as I said, it all boils down to commitment. Be committed. If you want to do something, do whatever it takes. It's not just whatever I can. Oh, I did everything, I want to have my weekend. It doesn't work that way. You got to be goal-oriented.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning my book. I actually have a new mentor who also mentioned the other day, it used to be the haves and the have-nots, but from his perspective, now it's actually the wills and the will-nots, to your point. Do whatever it takes, not what you can do, but what you will do to get it done.
Yep. I think it's about commitment, and then and then the passion to make it happen. Choose what you really think that you want to do in life and do it. Don't do it for the heck of money. Money will follow you. You don't need to follow money. Money will follow us. We have to be so good that money, people, everybody will come to us.
Well, we are coming to the end of the show, and it has been my pleasure to have you on. I'm so glad that we made this happen. It sounds like you are a huge value to so many people on this planet, in this country, and all around the world. And just thank you so much for honoring us with your time. And, we will get this show to you so that you can share it with your tribe, and they see all the pearls of wisdom that you bring to the table. So thank you for being on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Cami, and it's wonderful chatting with you. I'm really honored to be associated with you in any capacity. If I can be helpful for your audience, that's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.